Welcome to the Drilling Millions podcast, presented by Sage Dental Partners.
Dr. Narang, thanks so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
So we'll start with the first topic that I really want to discuss with you, which we sort of discussed over dinner a couple of weeks ago, which was, now that you have set up a couple of practices and you've seen them grow and they've all done really well, you're sort of moving from the more wet finger dentist to more of an entrepreneurial dentist. So talk to us a little bit about that transition.
Yeah, so I graduated in 1984, so I've been doing dentistry for about 38 years. The first practice I associated for about 2.5 years, really, before I opened my first practice, which was in 87. That practice, we started it from scratch. It started growing, started doing well, kind of renovated, that practice and grew it from a 4-op office to a 7-op office in 92. And, did really well in that location and decided, going back to, I think about 2002 was the second office that we opened. About 10 years later, we opened a third office. I sold the second office in 2017, and then we just opened, the fourth office just this month. It's sort of definitely like, I guess, with the opening of the second and or the third office and now the fourth. Yeah, I love doing dentistry still. I am a wet finger dentist. I'm not just an entrepreneurial dentist, but I do really enjoy the business side of dentistry too. So yeah, a little bit of wet finger dentistry still. I still, work usually about 6 hours a day for about 4 or 5 days a week. And then, the rest of the time managing the practices. But, I've kind of just gotten really good people in place in each of the offices so that I don't have to work too hard or work too much on the other locations. I've just got good people managing them, and then I oversee them, maybe about half an hour, 45 minutes or an hour a day, just at the start of my day or maybe towards the end of my day. And that's it.
And that's the goal, right? Have it to be self-sustaining.
Yeah, especially there's the one practice that relies on me because I've been there for a long time, but I have, 3 other associates working in that office, multiple hygienists working, a couple of specialists working. But the other offices, the goal is for me to not be involved working in them or working just very little in them, maybe at the start, just to oversee it. And I want those to be kind of more satellite offices that I manage, but that I don't have to be in labor working harder to run them.
Right. So what are the indications that, you're sort of ready to make that jump from the first office to the second, third, and fourth office? Because I hear a lot of people in dental school or, young aspiring practice owners saying, it seems so easy, just buy the practice and money's the issue. But, as being in the space for so long, money's not always the issue. It's practice management, et cetera, et cetera. So how did you know that you were ready to make that jump?
I knew I was, I tend to be on the cautious side. I don't, I probably will start, I may open another few offices and we may do it sooner than we did with the previous offices, but that's because I've been in dentistry for 38 years, I really wouldn't advise anybody to, get into that second office until they feel that first office is rock solid. That it's doing really well, because, we opened the first office and, we started doing well with it. Obviously I had kind of started honing my skills as a dentist, as an associate, looking at the business model, because that was kind of a practice that was in a mall with, multiple dentists, 4 dentists working in it, multiple hygienists. So I was able to kind of see the business model, how they were running the office, to try to basically pattern my own office after that. And then once my own office started doing well, I know I opened the second office because I wanted to do more cosmetic dentistry. And I opened that office in Oakville, Ontario. I was practicing in Mississauga. because the demographic was different. There was more appreciation for aesthetics, more interest in aesthetics. And I opened that second office because I wanted to start doing more aesthetic dentistry. And I thought it would be kind of a good sort of adjunct to the practice that I had, because it allowed me to do more high-end dentistry and a different type of dentistry than what I was doing in my main location. And then the third office, when we opened it, it was just purely then it was becoming more of an entrepreneurial decision. Okay, yeah, this is a great location. I won't need to be here much. It'll run on itself as long as I can get good dentists in place. Surrounded a very dense part of Mississauga, very busy, a lot of apartment buildings close to a major shopping mall, so that was kind of, the decision to open that. But, there was 10 years there in between, before I opened the second and the third. So it's not like I was running out to do it. And even the fourth office that we've opened now, we did it 10 years later. If I do open more offices, I know it'll probably be an accelerated pace, because I don't know if I'll be around in 10 years practicing dentistry at age 75. I'm 65 now. But yeah, I'm still enjoying what I do. And I think I still want to open some more, as long as, the offices start doing well. But my decision is I want that office to be doing well and in the black, making money before I make that decision to open another office.
Yeah, well, you got that Peloton shirt on, so you're going to be around forever. So that's not a concern. So were there particular growing pains that were felt from offices 1 to 2 that you kind of learned from and iterated, that weren't really felt with a third office? Like what were some of the big sort of growing pains that you felt initially?
Oh yeah, there was definitely more growing pains from the first to the second office than really any of the others. I found this fourth one's been the smoothest, because again, I've done it 3 times before. And again, just the location and, looking at factors before I opened the office, I think I'm in a better position now to judge where I'd want to be or what kind of location I'd like to have a better feel for it than I might have had when I opened that second office, because that second office got opened in a plastic surgery sort of surgery center kind of building where there was a plastic surgeon. But again, see, my objective at that time was I really wanted to start doing more aesthetic dentistry. Thus, I went into a building where there was a plastic surgeon, there was a dermatologist, there was a sort of a medi spa, and there was a pharmacist, and I was the cosmetic dentist in there. And, but I had to actually pull myself away from my main practice 2 full days a week, and initially it was kind of like I'd work half day at one office and I'd go running to the other office for the other half day. And then I would do a full day on another day of the week. And then, just, it was more schlepping. It was a little bit more running around. It was, harder because I was trying to be the guy in my main clinic and be the guy in this aesthetic office. And it ran for years and it did really well with me just being there 2 days a week. Later, that half day became a full day. And then there was hygiene on other days, obviously, that I wasn't there. And then I did add an associate, another day or 2 a week. But primarily that practice relied a lot on me. And it worked great for years because it was giving me an opportunity to do a lot of cosmetic dentistry, placing implants, restoring implants, doing a lot of veneers, doing a lot of full mouth rehabilitations, kind of the dentistry that I'd wanted to do. And I'm actually doing a lot more of that back in my main location now, even though I didn't used to do as much of it, because that's the only place that I practice. And now I have a reputation. I've been practicing for 38 years. So people will come to me from all over. And I get a chance to do that same type of dentistry where I am out of one spot instead of having to run around.
So you mentioned the importance of the location, and I can agree with you more. What have you learned over the 4 practices about the importance of location?
Well, I mean, again, it's just going to basically save you a lot of money in marketing if you have a lot of a visible location, a good location, a readily accessible location. So, I mean, where we were in Oakville, being in this building, it was really like an industry. It's sort of like all commercial, you know, commercial, but industrial commercial along Cornwall Road where my office was. And I was hidden at the back of the building. And I had a sign at the front, a pylon sign and a sign on the building also that there was, Oakville Dental Arts and a cosmetic dentist in the building. But it was a lot of word of mouth. It was a lot of advertising that I did in the local paper. And it just was not the kind of location that I would now select for a secondary office. But it's kind of, you learn the hard way sometimes, third location, much better location, surrounded by a lot of condominiums and, a lot of people who can walk by. Again, it's at a retail level. It's on the ground floor of an apartment building surrounded by many, many other apartment buildings. And the downtown location also that we opened kind of in Toronto now, extremely dense, a lot of apartment buildings, a lot of people kind of walking by. So yes, we will do some AdWords and we'll do some, some marketing kind of on the internet, but there's a lot of people that are going to walk by the office and notice it, and it's a great location.
So at this point, 4Deep, you probably have a setup protocol almost, right? So you probably know, when I acquire the location, these are the subsequent steps I need to take in order to get the setup. What's at the very top of that list after getting the location?
So, I mean, obviously getting the location, kind of getting a lease in place, obviously getting your financing in place, right? Even before signing the lease, you want to probably make sure that you've got the financing in place, for your location. So obviously, even before we signed, I made sure that all of our financing was in place, which it was. And then, once the lease is done, then really getting whoever you're working with. We worked with Henry Schein Arcona here, who I've been dealing with for many years. So we dealt with them. They did the initial drawings, hired an engineer, to basically get all the drawings done and getting them submitted and getting them approved. And then obviously hiring a good contractor, getting some bids on the location or getting a good contractor who's going to be able to, deliver the premises to you in a timely manner. We had set a goal to be able to have our office completed in 6 months. And then we wound up opening, I think, about a month late, which was acceptable to me because it was hard right now, with having gone through COVID and supply chain issues and things being more expensive, and also just trying to coordinate all the trades and working with City of Toronto, to run over by 4 weeks was really pretty acceptable. I was happy with that. And then basically, I just had a good team of people. Like once, the contractor was in place and, we had decided on all of our finishes and we kept doing some of the work as we went along. I just had really good people at my main clinic, who've been with me for more than 30 years. 4 people in particular: the office manager, the person who does all of my accounts payable and manages all of our books in the office and does all of the accounting in the office, my restorative hygienist, and my lead assistant, all kind of combined to really make my life easier. They ordered everything that we needed to really manage the practice or run the practice. And, between them and my computer IT guy and our people at Henry Schein, who were, getting us all the equipment and everything that we needed. It just was, sounds like sometimes it's onerous, but it just becomes more manageable because you've been through it a few times and you have good people helping you.
So when you have existing practices and you want to set up a new one, is it best to bring staff from the existing running practices and put them in the new practice, or is it more of a you have them train the new staff there? What's the balance of how to organize the staffing?
So, our goal was, so the way it worked for Bentway, which we just opened, obviously I needed a receptionist, a full-time office manager slash receptionist, somebody who would be kind of a cut above just being a receptionist, because, hey, she's going to be your face of the practice. Somebody, and for me, the really key thing is getting somebody who's really friendly, getting somebody who's got really good social skills, somebody who's good on the phone and who's welcoming, So that was my goal. I started looking, probably about 2 or 3 months before we were going to open, and then found that person and hired her probably at least a good month to 6 weeks before we were going to open the office. And then she came to my main clinic and she trained. And she even went to the second clinic near Square One and she trained there under, the office manager there, under the office manager at my main office, and just kind of learning the ropes, because the software we're using in both offices is, in all 3 offices, is the same. And then obviously we're training her to kind of manage the front desk in a similar style to what my other receptionists would be doing at the other clinics. So she got a chance to work with the other girls and probably felt much more comfortable, from day one going into that practice, having that kind of behind her, that training behind her. Training is so important, and then the same thing with our lead assistant. We hired a lead assistant who was flexible, who was willing to work a little bit more, and also wanted to do front desk. So, that way we'd have her doing assisting and some front desk. And so she was also trained in my main office, came and worked with the other assistants, learned how we do things, all of the regulations and rules these days with sterilization and protocols, and, making sure that everything gets done the proper way. And then the dentist also, who I hired, was a new grad. She had graduated from NYC and then done a residency at NYC. And then she came and shadowed me for a couple of weeks and watched me working in the main clinic, where, we're always busy and doing so many different things. So I wanted her to see how I do a new patient exam, how I do a consultation, how I talk to patients, how I do my, some of my cosmetic dentistry and my crown preps or my veneer preps. So she had an opportunity to sort of observe me, watch me, learn from me, and then, basically get into the practice and start doing some of the dentistry herself and working. She's the main dentist really there. I'm there really I just go there from about 4 to 6 or 5 to 7 once a week on the Thursday, just to see, consultations for TMD, somebody who's interested in Invisalign, somebody who's interested in cosmetic dentistry, somebody who's interested in implants, some of the more advanced procedures that maybe she may not feel comfortable with, so she can do, the examinations and even some of the hygiene, because our hygiene program's just sort of starting up, and also, anything that's kind of out of her league, I can sort of go in and help with, and then otherwise she's going to run with it, and she's going to grow with the practice, and she's going to learn, as she's doing more and more advanced work in the clinic. And on the hygiene side, we have a couple of our hygienists from the other 2 clinics that, wanted to work in the downtown location. They both live downtown. So we've started off with kind of Wednesdays and Fridays and Saturdays. And those are the 3 main hygiene days right now. And as the practice grows, we're going to add the other days until we have a full rounded hygiene schedule. We were able to hire a couple of hygienists that were already working with us to do hygiene in the new clinic. And again, they already know my expectations and what I want them to do and how I want them to work.